Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are covering asymptote, okay, asymptotes, plural as well. When it comes to asymptotes, it always involves graphs, okay? Our parent graph is always y equals 1 over x, okay? That's the parent. Whenever you get actual numbers next to the x, okay, you usually have a shift, which is usually h, okay, which is minus h. This means that your shift of the asymptote is going to move left to right, okay? So h moves left to right, meaning depending if it's positive or negative. Okay? If it's positive, it moves to the right. If it's negative, it moves to the left from the origin. Okay? The origin of the parent, always, your asymptote, which is 1 over x, is always at 0. Okay? Your vertical asymptote, up and down, is always at 0. So since we have the graph here, our asymptote goes here on the original. Okay? When it's y equals 1 over x. The h, if it's positive, it's going to move your asymptote to the right. If it's negative, it's going to move it to the left. Okay? Sometimes you have a k in there, which is a big number. Okay? Plus k. This means that k, think of it as x and y when you have your points. X and y. Okay? The same with h and k. Okay? X or h is left to right. K is up and down. Okay? Depending again if it's positive, if it's negative. If it's positive k, then it goes up. If it's negative, it goes down. Okay? You rarely see. Okay? Isotopes that are horizontal. The way you have isotopes is the following. If your number, okay, in this case, obviously, x equals 0 when it's a parent because it's at 0, okay? Notice how your isotope is at 0, okay? That happens when x, there's a 1, okay? Here, since there's no x, it's x to the 0, meaning that if your top x, okay, in this case it's 0 because there wasn't that we added it in there. Since we added it to the 0. If your top x is smaller, okay, smaller, should I say smaller than your bottom one, it always means that it's 0, okay? So y equals 0 as well. Okay, notice that it's 0. When it's the opposite, okay? When your top number or your top x, because some of them might have an x, when that happens, if your top one is bigger than your bottom one, there is no horizontal isotope, okay? So if I were to say y equals 2x squared over x plus 1, notice that the bottom one has a 1, the top one has 2. Since there's 2 is bigger than 1, and it's on top, there is no horizontal, okay? So like I said, that's why sometimes you might not see a horizontal one. But when it comes to vertical, you'll always see a vertical one, okay? Because the equation is always 1 over x, okay? That part of the equation you'll always see. Now that you guys know the very basic stuff of this, let's erase it. Make sure you guys have it on your notes. Alright guys, so here's the problem for today. We have y equals 3 over x plus 2. Okay, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to find out where our isotopes are located at. Okay, our H and our K. Okay, hint, hint. Remember, since there's no X on top for your horizontal, your K, your horizontal isotope, since you're going to have a 0 here because there's no X, it's always 0, right? Remember, we always said it was 0. To find your H, okay, your shift, or in this case, the isotope for the vertical line. Always get the bottom of your equation and equal it to 0. That's the rule. Always equal it to 0. So we have x plus 2 equals 0. Okay? If we're solving for x, we subtract 2. We're left with x equals negative 2. So we know that our vertical, okay, isotope is at negative 2. Okay, so we have an isotope at negative 2 and an isotope horizontally at 0. So when we graph this equation is, okay, make sure you have this little piece so I can erase it so I can do our graph. Now that we have our isotopes, okay, we're going to put it in the graph. Let's use purple. Let's see if purple works out. Okay, so we have our graph. Let's use one of these colors. See which one works better for you guys to see. Okay, so we have an isotope at negative 2. So we're going to have negative 1, negative 2. Okay, I wrote 2 little lines in here. 1 and 2 on our graph. Hopefully you guys can see them. Okay, there is our isotope for horizontal. I mean, not horizontal, vertical. So we're gonna make our vertical line there. Okay, it might not be a little straight, but it's okay, it's not our class. Now, our isotope for our horizontal line. Remember, it was at 0. So we make our isotope at 0. That means that, okay, our lines cannot pass, okay, these lines. So if we have a line or that goes in any direction, cannot touch our lines. Since we're dealing with isotopes, they're always vertically from each other. So our lines cannot pass our isotopes, okay? And that's it, okay? That's all we're doing today. Make sure you find your isotopes, okay? For domain and range, okay? I'm not gonna worry about that too much right now. All I want you guys to get familiar with is isotopes, isotope for one. Make sure you find, like I said, find them out before you actually graph them. Tell me what are they? What is your vertical horizontal isotope, and what is your horizontal? Okay, if it has one. So here's your assignment for today. All right, guys. So your examples for today are f of x equals 1 over x, hint, hint. You guys kind of already saw this. Okay? And then your second one is f of x equals -3 over x minus 1. Okay? So again, find the isomtotes. It has more than one. Make sure you submit your answers as soon as you're done watching the video. And I'll be waiting for your email.